When Benjamin Netanyahu rejects the formation of a Palestinian state, the first issue he raises is security. For him, protecting Israeli citizens is the top responsibility of any prime minister. He argues that a fully independent Palestinian state right next door could put central cities and critical infrastructure at risk. Geography matters. Hostile forces could launch attacks into Tel Aviv or Jerusalem within minutes. Israel cannot afford that risk, and security remains his non-negotiable priority.
He frequently points to the example of Gaza. After Israel withdrew in 2005, Hamas quickly took over, and thousands of rockets have since been fired into Israel. Netanyahu uses this as a warning. If the West Bank becomes a sovereign Palestinian state, the same situation could repeat on a much larger scale. He believes such a state could turn into a terrorist stronghold rather than a peaceful neighbor.
Netanyahu insists that Jerusalem, the spiritual and political heart of the Jewish people, must remain united under Israeli sovereignty. Palestinians, however, demand East Jerusalem as their capital. From his perspective, dividing Jerusalem would not only weaken Israel's identity, but also create endless conflict over holy sites. For him, control of the entire city is non-negotiable.
The 1967 borders, which many international voices propose as the foundation for a Palestinian state, are seen by Netanyahu as impossible to defend. Israel would be only a few kilometers wide at certain points, making it highly vulnerable to invasion. He argues that retaining key strategic areas, such as the Jordan Valley, ensures Israel has defensible borders that can protect against future regional threats.
Netanyahu often frames the conflict not just in political terms, but as a continuation of Jewish history. He points out that the West Bank, which Jews called Judea and Samaria, is the cradle of Jewish civilization. From his perspective, asking Israel to give it up is not simply a territorial question, but a denial of the Jewish people's deep-rooted historical and biblical connection to their homeland.
Under Netanyahu, Israeli settlements in the West Bank have expanded significantly. He argues that these communities are not just homes, but also vital for security, economy, and heritage. A Palestinian state would almost certainly require removing or freezing settlements, something he strongly resists. He presents settlements as a way to strengthen Israel's presence and prevent the fragmentation of Jewish territory.
Netanyahu's power relies heavily on alliances with right-wing and religious parties, many of which categorically reject the idea of a Palestinian state. Supporting such a plan would mean alienating his political partners and possibly losing his government. For him, opposing Palestinian statehood is also about political survival and maintaining a stable coalition. Another consistent point Netanyahu raises is that Palestinian leadership cannot be trusted to uphold peace agreements. He highlights corruption in the Palestinian Authority and the violent stance of Hamas. He argues that without a reliable partner, any deal would collapse quickly, leaving Israel exposed to new waves of violence.
By maintaining control over the West Bank, Israel holds a strong geographical advantage. It can monitor security threats, control major road networks, and oversee critical water resources. Netanyahu sees this control as non-negotiable, because surrendering it would mean losing Israel's ability to preempt attacks and protect its citizens.
Finally, Netanyahu often uses his opposition to Palestinian statehood as a bargaining chip on the world stage. By not committing fully, he keeps room for negotiation while gaining concessions from allies, particularly the United States. In his eyes, refusing a Palestinian state provides Israel with leverage in shaping the outcome of broader Middle East diplomacy.